Angry MGTOW here. And feminism has robbed millennial women of their futures. Feminism has robbed millennial women of their futures. It's unfortunate, but it is quite true. I'm going to be looking at a comment from one of my subscribers today, and we're going to go into further how screwed millennial women are in this generation as a result of feminism. So let's jump over to the comment. The comment comes from Jack Sparrow, and here's what Jack has to say. Women are getting resources created by men, and the government is also borrowing money out of nowhere to provide resources. Printing money eventually collapses an economy, and then there are no resources for women. The courts will barely function, and child support and alimony can't take from broke men standing in a breadline. The men will be better off because they can go out and do manual labor and get cash. There are only so many men who will pay women for sex, and when the women lose welfare and flood the market with blowjobs, sex will cost the same amount as in a third world country. Some of you guys are going to say, bullshit. It'll never happen here in the United States. Such a thing can't happen. Jack Sparrow, I want to thank you for this great comment. I find myself frustrated trying to explain basic economics to a lot of MGTOW, a lot of men who are born into this generation where things just simply grew on trees. Money, resources just popped out of nowhere, and they think that the US will never run out of money. It just doesn't work like that. If you want to see exactly how it works, look at Greece. Greece is not an isolated situation. Greece is the perfect example of what happens when you don't budget carefully, when the government spends more money than it actually has, when the people live outside of their means. Teenagers are selling sex in Greece for €2 right now. The price of a cheese sandwich. The price of a cheese sandwich. Until recently, and it may still be this way, people were only able to get $50 a day from the ATMs in Greece. That's how bad things had gotten in Greece. A lot of this happened for a couple of reasons. One, it happened because of the youth as well. There are not enough young people to subsidize the cost of the older people. Women typically retire at an average age between 57 and 59 in Greece. You heard me right. The typical average woman in Greece does not, or at least did not, retire in her 60s. She retired in her 50s, while the Greek man retired in his early 60s. That is something downright laughable in the United States, where they are pushing for the retirement age to exceed 75, which is more or less you work until you die. They lived outside of their means. They thought money grew on trees. They enjoyed the finer things in life. And now they are living in squalor. It's not a joke. We've had generation after generation in the United States where entitlements have been rampant. Social Security is all but gone at this point. Things are so bad in terms of Social Security and benefits right now that by 2025, they will have to lower Social Security payouts to around 55% of what people are currently getting. Is no one awake? Is no one aware? Because I'm here trying to explain basic economics, that all of these things are actually happening, and a lot of men don't seem to get it. The government, many of these programs are running out of money. Barack Obama acted like everything's okay. We're gonna keep on spending and spending and spending, as did the presidents before him. George W. Bush was one of the last presidents to actually address Social Security and say that he was worried about the young people, about the millennials, because we would not have Social Security. Obama completely went over the topic, didn't even discuss it. A lot of people don't even know that Social Security is going to run out of money in 2025 and that their benefits are going to be greatly reduced. Keep in mind that the last of the baby boomers are going to retire, or should I say turn 65. The last of the baby boomers will turn 65 in 2029. 2029. That's a large generation, guys. That's a large generation of people that are going to be going on Social Security when there's not much of it. And other government entitlements will have dried up by then. They're going to start drying up this year. Where does that leave millennial women? It leaves millennial women in a very bad place. It leaves millennial women in a position where they are not able to find jobs, to find men to marry, or to get assistance from the government. Money doesn't grow on trees, and entitlements can't last forever. They bankrupt a country. And if you think that the government will print more money, when a government tries something along those lines, I think they like to call it quantitative easing, if they are not very careful with their quantitative easing, which is the concept of pumping money back into the economy, it can result in mass inflation. That's what quantitative easing is. It's another name for pumping money into the economy. That's what the federal government did under Obama. They began pumping more and more money into the government, printing money out of the air. But these IOUs have to come from somewhere. They come from government bonds. But these government bonds have to be backed in something. But they're not. That's the truth. They really are. They're backed in goodwill. In reality, when things come front and center, America is not the entire world. We are borrowing money. We are playing games. We are hiding things. But when everything comes front and center, we are out of money. We will not be able to continue extracting resources from men if men don't have them. The lie of feminism told women they were equal to men, they were better than men, they did not need men to survive, and that they could always turn to the government to provide for them. But those days are over. Our mothers and grandmothers milked that system. They milked welfare. They milked food stamps. They milked Social Security. They milked entitlements. They milked Section 8. They milked Planned Parenthood. They milked it all. Wake the fuck up. There are no more entitlements. They're done. Millennial women don't realize just how bad things are for them. First off, millennials currently make more than 20% less than their parents were making at this point in their lives. So for example, the average 25-year-old is making 20% less when you adjust for inflation than their parents were at this time in their lives. Not only that, they have 56% less wealth than their parents had accumulated. So by the time a person is 27 years old, they typically had bought a house. By the time a couple averaged the age of 27, they had typically bought a house. And the cost of a house back in the 1970s was usually a person's 1 year salary. The cost of a home, the average home, was 1 year's salary for a person. Did you hear me? 1 year's salary. 1 year's salary was the typical cost of a person's home. That's absolutely ridiculous. Think about that rationally. There is no reason why anyone should have had a 30-year mortgage back then. People could comfortably buy a home in the 70s for $30,000 and then pay $3,000 a year for the next 10 years. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine making $30,000 in the 70s? You buy a home for $30,000, and then you pay $3,000 a year for the next 30 years, for the next 10 years. Can you imagine that? In today's day and age, though, there's no such thing. You have two people making, if you're lucky, $50,000 a year, in many cases not even that, attempting to buy a home that cost $500,000. And they're going to spend the next 30 years trying to pay that back. And God forbid, housing prices, the housing bubble finally pops again, and house prices fall because these properties are not worth what people are paying. They will be out a substantial investment. And guess what? If they lose their jobs, they will lose those properties. So all the money that they spent paying into those properties will end up being lost. Where does this bring us to millennial women? Millennial women are statistically much poorer than any other group, including men. You heard me correctly. Millennial women have significantly less savings than millennial men. Significantly less savings than millennial men. This is a statistically proven fact, and I've actually featured statistics in another video where I showed charts detailing how millennial women have significantly less savings than millennial men. And I talked about the scenario why that occurs, because millennial women spend way outside of their means. You give a millennial woman and a millennial man $25,000 a year in the same job, the millennial woman will spend it on junk. She will basically she'll take out credit. She'll do all kinds of things, while the millennial man will get a roommate and they'll have a couch, share a television, and he'll basically start saving his resources and play video games. Video games are his entertainment. Her, for the woman, going out, partying, living it up, spending more than she's actually making, and buying endless amounts of junk that have no value after it's purchased. So, for example, accessories, clothing, all of that shit. None of this stuff can be sold later on. For example, when men purchase things, men might purchase electronics. Men might purchase cars. Men make practical purchase, things that actually hold value. A woman goes out, she purchases this really cute top for $100. She can never sell that top. In fact, that top is now not worth anything. After she purchases it, it's worth very little because it has to be in her size. So she can't just turn around and put it up on eBay. And within a year, it's out of style. So no one definitely wants it. So it has no value. The same thing is said with shoes. She buys tons and tons of shoes, but the shoes have no consistent value. None. Women acquire all of these things that have no value, and in the end, they have nothing of value. Just tons of junk. To another woman will say, well, it's not junk, it has sentimental value. It may have sentimental value, but it has no physical value, no redeemable value. That's the difference between a man, or should I say a millennial man and a millennial woman. Millennial women don't have a future or a bright future in the job market because they have to look at how the direction the job market's going in. Amazon Go is replacing cashiers in supermarkets. The technology is said that it is believed the technology will be licensed out to places like Walmart. And I've said I've worked at Walmart when I graduated from college and couldn't find a job. I understand the inner workings of Walmart very well because I work distribution. And a lot of these things can be facilitated by machines. It is their wet dream. It is Walmart's wet dream that someone will walk into their store, pick up everything they want, and then walk out. You've got to be kidding me. That is their dream come true. Where they walk in, load up a shopping cart, and then walk out. Gotta be kidding me. It is a wet dream for Walmart executives. And that is what Amazon Go is facilitating right now. You see, what Amazon really wants is information. They don't want to sell, they don't want to create stores all over the place. That's too much trouble, that's too much work for them. They want the information about what people are buying, the quantities that they buy them at, and the prices that they're buying them at. So for example, if they know that this many people are buying this many bottles of shampoo by this manufacturer at Walmart, they can offer a better deal through Amazon and target customers who are purchasing that information, who are purchasing those products. Because a part of the deal will be information sharing, undoubtedly. Well, Amazon's going to want the information. Walmart's going to want the technology. They'll make it work. And they'll get rid of all those cashiers, those female cashiers. You know the very few jobs that will be left behind? The very few jobs that will be left behind will be labor. They will be labor. They will be people who unload the trucks. They will be people who maybe stock the shelves. And again, over time, the shelf stocking will be done entirely by machines. But they will be done initially. The jobs that will remain will initially be stockers and distribution. People who unload the trucks, and unpack things. A job done almost exclusively by men. Only the hard lifting jobs will be left. So women won't have those lower tier jobs anymore. Those are going to vanish. McDonald's is putting kiosks in all 14,000 US locations this year. 14,000. All 14,000 McDonald's will be getting a kiosk where people can walk in, place their orders, and leave. You think it's a joke? I saw a picture where there's a McDonald's that had something like a row of like 6 kiosks, one right after the other. They're literally setting it up so that the people who work at McDonald's have as little to do with the customer as possible. They will be relented to monitoring the kiosk in case anyone has any issues, which they usually won't. And then serving them their meal. And trust me, McDonald's is also working to automate out the preparation of food. They are hands down working hard to automate out the preparation of food. That's something that's been happening in Europe for quite some time. And as soon as they get it right, the people who work in the back, frying and preparing your food, they're gone. And people will be a lot happier when those people are gone as well, because it means they won't spit in your food anymore. So that's a load off our minds. That's a real load off our minds. So instead of having 5 or 6 or even 10 people working in a McDonald's at one time, they'll have 2 just for customer service. Maybe even just 1. A single person to take the order and give it to the people and keep up the allure of customer service. Thank you for coming to McDonald's. That's it. They don't need 10 people to do that. Keep in mind, you only have 1 person or 2 people at the cashiers. But without a need for a cashier, you just need a person for customer service just to keep the human look. It only takes a single person. Don't forget that. So they're losing jobs at Walmart. They're losing jobs in McDonald's. They're losing jobs at banks. Tellers are being replaced with ATMs. People don't even know that Chase actually laid off up to around 5,000 employees last year. 5,000 tellers were replaced by ATMs last year at Chase units. And they are looking to continue restructuring. 5,000 jobs were lost last year. No one actually noticed it because of the presidential election. It sounds like a small amount of jobs until you realize that more and more banks are going to continue this trend, removing the tellers and replacing them with ATMs where you do everything. And I love the ATMs. I go to the ATMs, I do my deposits, I do everything at the ATMs. In fact, I needed to go to the bank not too long ago, and I'll tell you a story about this. I was headed to the bank, and then I saw something that says a banking center. So I was on a bus. I hopped off the bus, and I thought it was the bank. It wasn't. It was just an ATM. So I go up to the ATM. I needed to put money in, and lo and behold, I was able to do all of that from the ATM. Not only was I able to put money into the ATM, the process was much faster and easier than going through a teller. As soon as I put my card in the machine, I selected my checking account, I put a deposit, and it just opens up and it says insert cash. You can insert cash, you can even insert a check. You insert the check, you insert your cash. It counts it, tells you how much you've put in, asks you if you'd like to put any more in, or if you're done. You hit done. That's it. It calculates it, tells you your new updated balance, asks you if you'd like another transaction, you say no. It prints you a receipt and says, have a good day. You do that all within a couple of minutes without any human interaction whatsoever. Very streamlined. Millennial women will not have access to these jobs anymore. Most millennial women don't want to be doctors. They don't have the willpower. And guess what? There's just not enough schools to go around. Not everyone can be a doctor. If everyone could, there would be more doctors. Not everyone can get into these fields. Being engineers, there's a need for engineers right now, but the thing is, to be an engineer, you need a proficient amount of education. Also, there's a lot of these women getting these 3-month going to these 3-month programs calling themselves engineers. They're not engineers. They are not engineers. And even those women are scarce. Even those women are scarce in engineering. The truth is that engineering is going to continue to remain a male-dominated field because it requires math, science, and cognitive thought. Cognitive thought being able to actually use your brain to solve a problem. It requires fluid intelligence. Fluid intelligence goes beyond just plain old memorization. It's critical thinking, your ability to solve problems. That's something that women don't excel at compared to men. Men have significantly more fluid intelligence than women do. There's 2 types of intelligence. There's fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. Crystallized intelligence is how you deal with issues based on the things you've learned throughout your entire life. Feminism has robbed women because they're not going to be able to go out and have children. They're not going to find suitable men. I made another video where I was reviewing how Turd Fleeing Monkey said that we need male scarcity to drive up the need for men. In other words, if there's fewer men, if more men die, then women are going to want men more. That's incorrect. Women see men as resources, but they no longer value men the way they did in the past because the government began taking the resources from the men and giving it directly to the women through entitlements, taxation, or helping women to extract wealth and resources using divorce courts. As fewer men are marrying and as more entitlements are being destroyed and completely eliminated, women are losing 2 important avenues that they had in the past to extract wealth and resources from men. Do you think if women start holding out and saying, okay, well, we're not going to have sex with you unless you get married to us, men are going to start increasingly married? No way in hell. No way in hell. First off, the average woman today has something like an average of 10 sexual partners in her life. Okay? An average. Many are on the higher end of that number, though. I remember one girlfriend I had, I talked about my sexual history with her, and when I asked her how many guys she'd been with, she told me 30-something. And my mouth absolutely dropped. Keep in mind, with this same girl, I spoke to her about STDs, and she told me that she had once had chlamydia, syphilis, and maybe even gonorrhea. You heard me right. You heard me right. And at the time, I was doing PUA, and I had a PUA teacher. I was doing PUA. I had a PUA teacher, and my PUA teacher was one of the so-called most experienced, most highly respected guys in the PUA community. He was a legend. And this guy was telling me nonsense like, I shouldn't be upset with her for it because she felt safe enough to share with me that she had, these multiple STDs. And I was like, what the fuck? On top of that, on our first date, she told me she had an abortion. Guys, I had like I dated this train wreck of a girl. On our first date, she told me about her abortion, which I never prompted. I never, ever brought up. I did not guide her towards it in any way. She brought up her abortion on the first date. That should have been the very moment I ran. But I was such a simp back then, doing this PUA nonsense, I wasn't thinking for myself. And then, I remember this one guy I worked with, he told me, when I told him about the relationship, he told me I needed to get out of it quickly. And I didn't listen to him until everything crashed and burned with her. I mean, that girl she made my life miserable. And I regret not getting out of that relationship as soon as possible. And the worst thing is, I was looking at a picture recently with me and her, and she looked just like my mother. I could easily say that's my mother, and everyone would believe me. She looked so old. We were the same age. She was 29, I was 29 at the time, or going on 29, and she looked so fucking old. She had rolled the carousel into the ground. She had accumulated massive amounts of debt. She was like living in this tiny room. She told me at some point that, because she wasn't doing well financially, she didn't even have her own cell phone. She was sharing a cell phone with her grandmother. It was some really crazy shit. Her life was a total fucking mess. Total fucking mess. And I remember like there was things like she once criticized me because there was something I wanted to get, and it cost something like $15,000, and she criticized me for not amply having $15,000 to spend on it. And I was thinking to myself, are you out of your fucking mind? Are you out of your fucking mind? Like, what the fuck do you really expect from a man? You think I'm supposed to find this amount of money out of the blue? The average millennial woman is narcissistic. They are materialistic. And they are so self-centered that they will go out of their way to damage and harm a man that they're in a relationship with. I didn't say all, but the average millennial woman is like that. Just the fact that they are like this, coupled with all the entitlements that they're losing, I've said it before, they've priced themselves out of the economy because companies are not going to want to hire them. Increasingly, more and more companies are not going to want to hire these women because they have very little to offer and they cost more. Honestly, if you look at the moves that Trump's making, it looks like he's setting up the very perfect storm for them to fail. But he's not saying it. He's giving them enough rope to hang themselves. Millennial women of this generation are going to suffer. My own mother isn't doing so great financially, and she grew up in the age of money. My mother spent and spent and spent and spent until there was nothing left. My parents, they burnt everything. They burnt through everything. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions, I don't know. They burnt through a lot of money. Lots of money. and they have nothing to show for it. Especially my mother, who just kept on buying useless amounts of junk that had no redeemable value, no retainable value. And she just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And in the end, she found herself flat broke. Flat broke. And, it was funny. The last time I spoke to my little brother, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, he said that he thinks, he said that my mother was thinking about going back to school at like 56, 57. 56, 57, my mother was thinking about going back to school because she had fucked up her life so much, living off government, getting government entitlements, fucking up the relationship with my father, ending up getting a divorce, burning through all of the assets, everything. She ended up with nothing. You think this generation of narcissistic millennial women are going to perform better than the baby boomer women? This generation of millennial women are worse than the baby boomer women. And the baby boomer women were pretty damn terrible. That's why this generation of millennial women are fucked. Because they will not have assets. They have fewer assets, fewer options. And they have nowhere to turn. And they will not be able to turn to men. Sure, they'll be able to pick off a few white knights and beta males here and there, but it won't be in the mass numbers as necessary. There's going to be massive male scarcity. Male scarcity doesn't just happen when there's fewer men. It happens when there are fewer unwilling men, or are men who don't have the resources. A man is only as valuable as the resources he has to a woman. That's something that Turtling Monkey did not really address in his video. He never did, actually. A man is only as valuable as the resources he has to a woman. Don't forget that. He's only as valuable as the resources he has to a woman. So if a man doesn't have many resources or any resources, he's invisible. So the actual group of men that women see as viable partners in an economy where entitlements are dried up is much smaller than people would actually believe. Because first off, it's not just men who have resources, it's also the men who are willing to share those resources with a woman. And significantly fewer men are willing to share their resources with a woman. They've actually found that more and more millennials are actually getting prenups. More millennials than any previous generation are getting prenups. Now, while people say prenups are mostly useless, they are still valuable. They still do provide some protection, which means that a future generation of women will have a much more difficult time extracting those resources from the reduced number of men that are even actually willing to marry. Hence why I said that feminism has robbed millennial women of their futures. Because they don't have futures as mothers. Very fewer women will have an opportunity to be a mother and a stay-home wife. Fewer women will be able to land a steady job because the economics of things have changed. The lucrative 9-to-5 jobs are disappearing. We're entering a gig economy, and anyone who wants a 9-to-5 job is going to have multiple skills. They're going to have to be able to do things, everything from media, video editing, and even basic computer programming. You think I'm joking? I am not. When you go to a job in the future, being able to just use social media is going to be a big thing. They're not going to want to hire a lot of people to separately handle social media accounts. They're going to want the programmers to be able to manage and mitigate social media. They're going to want you to be able to communicate on social media. It's not a game. And women are not going to be able to keep up with the paces, no matter how much they've done to try to hinder the progression of males in society. Women continue to fall behind men in the workplace and in education. because they are not as capable. It's not a joke. It's not saying something that is sexist. It's statistics. It's statistics. They earn less money because they work fewer hours. They are less likely to stay in the workforce over their entire life cycle or their adult life cycle. And as a result of that, their earning potential is lower. Plus, women are not as ambitious or not as dedicated as men are. Not the average woman. Most women are not willing to commit long periods of their lives to gaining something. Many women are not willing to commit 8 years for medical school, 8 years of school education, 4 years of medical school, 4 years of college, and then at least 4 years, at least 3 to 4 years for a residency. Most women are not willing to wait that long. You gotta be kidding me. Most aren't. And most are not gonna do the math and science that's required to get there. Guys, we're entering a new age, and in this new age, the millennial woman is going to grieve and is going to lash out at feminism. First, they're going to lash out at men, which is what they do best. Then they're going to lash out at society. And finally, they're going to lash out at feminism and say feminism has robbed them of their futures. Feminism has robbed them of resources. Feminism has robbed them of men. And that feminism is to blame. Keep in mind, they're going to blame feminism, but they won't blame themselves. We're going to have a multitude of homeless women. We're going to have a multitude of women who don't know what to do because time has caught up to them. A multitude of women who have hit the wall. I want to know if you agree that feminism has robbed millennial women of their futures, and millennial women are going to find themselves at the bitter end of things, unable to get jobs, unable to land husbands, unable to gain resources, unable to survive in society. I want to know if you agree that these things are going to happen. I want to remind you guys again that I do have a Patreon, so please consider going over my YouTube homepage or looking for the link in the description of this video and clicking on the Patreon link. It'll take you over to my Patreon page where you can become a regular contributor of my work, meaning you can make a regular monthly payment, donation of any amount that you choose to. There's different amounts with different rewards, and this helps to ensure I can continue to put out regular quality content for you. So definitely please check out my Patreon page. I make 3 of these videos every single day, and whatever you donate helps to ensure I can continue to make more quality content for you. Also, never miss another Angry MGTOW video by going to the notification button on below any video that's next to the subscribe button, clicking on it. And when you click on it, you'll get a pop-up that says send me all notifications for this channel. Just make sure you check that box, hit save, and if you've already done it, you don't have to do it again, and this will ensure you will never miss another Angry MGTOW video. You'll get notifications whenever I put out a new video or whenever I'm live streaming. So let me know if you agree that feminism has robbed millennial women of their futures, and they're going to find themselves experiencing massive hardships as a result of a loss of privilege, entitlement, and the ability to even land a husband. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section. If you like the video, please go ahead and hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you like the video, share the video, and just remember that all roads lead to MGTOW or death. And cheers. I'm telling you guys, Sandman's gonna stop using this. He's gonna stop using that outro.